Hi, everybody, and welcome to the behind-the-scenes version of Inside Investigations. Senior investigative producer Marnie Zambri is with me, and I have two words for you. Angela Hodges.
Yeah.
She's an interesting lady.
You have to see her to believe her. You have to see her in action. You can't just look at her on tape and see and get a real sense of how thoughtful, I say thoughtful very loosely, but also how
Deliberate
she is in basically trying to take people's money and trying to convince them that she is a legitimate business owner.
In some corner of her mind, do you think she believes she is?
I think in some corner of her mind, she believes that she is providing a service by giving them hope that they're going to get their trees taken down. But she can never follow through. She either just takes the money and never comes back, or she takes the money, she does a little bit of the job and feels like, I did something. And what I was so taken back about this is that there were so many people that were affected. I spoke to about 40 people on the phone and heard the same story again and again. And what made it even more upsetting is that she really manipulated herself into these people's lives. She would say to them, I am a black woman, I own my own business, and you as a black woman, because the majority of the people that were taken by her were elderly black women, and said, you can trust me, support me in my business. And when they did trust her, she ended up taking their money and just running with it.
So as we often talk about, level one is that she's participating in a scheme to steal people's money. But the reason it becomes a more interesting story is level two. She figures out how to manipulate the magistrate court system. Now here's my question. Did she stumble into that, Marnie, and show up at magistrate court a couple of times, or not show up and realize nothing's happening to me? Or do you think that she methodically figured it out?
I don't know that she methodically figured it out. I think that she just found that when she would show up, not much would happen. And if she didn't show up, she wasn't, there wasn't somebody knocking on her door saying you missed your court date, especially when it came to these civil court proceedings. A law enforcement sees it as a business dispute. So they're busy doing what they do in terms of going after more high-profile criminal suits. So this is seen as a business dispute. It's not seen as somebody stealing something from somebody. So she probably found out very quickly, if I don't pay, or if I don't fulfill this job that I said I was going to do, nothing's going to happen to me.
If you can sleep at night and if you can live with yourself for doing this, you can make some money.
Well, what's even more interesting is that after we started to dig into this, we found that this business was a family business. And it was something that her father did for years and years and provided a legitimate business. And some of her other family members tried to provide the same business. But somehow she got into it and either got in over her head or found out these loopholes in the magistrate system and realized, you know what? I don't have to do all this work. I don't have to fulfill my contracts because nobody is going to hold me accountable.
And then that takes us to level three of the story that makes it even more compelling, the showdown with the judge.
And it was heartbreaking, but so frustrating to go to hearing after hearing and seeing how, one, she wouldn't show up and there would be no repercussions. And then when she did show up, she would just try to work the system. And it was so frustrating to sit there because some of these victims came to every hearing to see if something would actually happen. And when it wouldn't, time after time, you could just, I spent a lot of time talking to the victims afterwards when they were crying because they've lost their money. They've lost their hope. One victim wanted to build a garden for her son who was sick. And in the time that it took to get the garden started and it was never finished, her son died. And so it's not just money. There's a lot of emotion connected to giving this person and trusting this person with projects that never get done.
So Angela's been to jail twice now for a few days.
Well, on this one because we do two parts. We do an update on it later on. And yes, she goes to jail once, that we definitely played a part in. And the second time that she went to jail, again, we sat there and pushed. And there's really only so much we can do except for show up.
And she was charged with contempt of court.
Contempt of court. She is, as far as we know, she's out again. And because of, while we're recording this now, we're in the COVID pandemic state. Who knows when she's going to be back in court? Who knows when she's actually going to be held accountable?
Justice delayed is justice denied.
Exactly.
Well, we're going to stay on this one and check out for more updates coming.